What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man. Good old humor. We're in the first week of April. Already, you know.
End of the first quarter of the year.
And how has the first quarter been, Terrence?
I'm glad we ended it with a bit of a bang, right?
Is it?
In the sense of, last week, the whole flurry of all the news about the HOOQ liquidation and all. Didn't that feel like a bang for you?
I guess now that you say, it was an interesting week, but it only occurred to me now when you mentioned it. I never looked at it as like, this is going to be the capstone of my Q1 of 2023.
No, I mean, not say capstone. I mean, I didn't say bang in a good way or a bad way. A bang could be you langar your vehicle, that's also you bang your car, right? Or it could be explosion, that's a bang also. So when I say bang, I don't necessarily mean that it's an awesome thing. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking like you were saying awesome. Oh, you're saying like, what kind of fuck description is that, Terrence?
Explosion.
That's like what a politician will say, you say something that could be taken both ways. When you say you end things with a bang, Terrence, normally it's a good thing, lah.
Okay. Sorry, speaker of the house. I apologize that you're taking my words at face value and not the intention behind it.
Yeah, no, you should have said like if I didn't ask, then I have no right to ask.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, correct. Then I throw down my file and I come and address you.
Yeah.
It ended with a bang of sorts, lah. With a bang of sorts.
A bang of sorts, yes.
A bang of sorts. Which we will be sharing a bit about that week, particularly because we did put out an AMA thread on our subreddit. If you haven't put your questions there, too bad. We have more than enough to talk about for now.
Yeah.
But that'll be the second half, lah.
The first half is we are revisiting a very heated discussion from last quarter.
Correct.
That I think a lot of people even have been commenting and saying that we should make a second part about as well, right?
Yeah. Partly because there is something in the news that is related to that, lah. And more specifically, it was with relation to Yalabot episode 371 when leader of the opposition Tristen Yeak said something in parliament, lah. But before we jump into that, anything to plug or not, Terrence?
I think if you're new to this to this podcast, you heard of us through whatever it is, whether through social media last week or what, welcome. And if you enjoy what you're listening, please do leave a rating on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that helps us get discovered by more like-minded people who are interested in hearing more than just one perspective on things happening in the news, right?
Yeah. And it's also an ego boost, because now that we have got like more than 800 plus reviews on Spotify, the next K is 1K, and then after that it's 5K and then 10K, because all our lives are defined by numbers and ratings, which is an analogy for the world. It is an analogy for the world and the society that we live in these days.
Yeah. The truth is, as content creators, we kind of just pushing it to increase the number of digits, right? Yeah. Like once you get to 1K, it doesn't really matter if it's 1K or 9K that much really, right? It's just like once it's 4-figure territory, then after that, the next thing you aim for is 5-figure, etc. So we're tantalizingly close to making it 4 figures, and with your help, maybe you can push it past that. Yeah.
So Terrence, next time in future, if I owe you $9 and I give you back $1, you say it's fine, no problem. If you owe me $10, then you fucking pay me $10.
Yeah,
if it's $9, it's okay. Any single digit number will be fine.
Correct. Yeah.
Nice.
That's the way I roll. Yeah.
Okay, that's the way you roll. Sweet. All right. Okay, cool. So shall we jump into the first topic?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so back in end of February, 27 February, that week, Tristen Yeak, the leader of the opposition, suggested the idea of an English test for future Singapore citizens, like to make it part of the PR application. And it was debated in Parliament. It was pushed back by some of the ministers, but there was a lot of pushback even internally on Yalabat, Because in episode 371, I think it was one of our more heated debates where people were leaving comments saying that, you know what, I couldn't listen to this. Normally you all are entertaining, but this, I felt it was too much of a debate.
Excruciating.
Excruciating. Because it was one of our more, I wouldn't say heated, but more like I guess somewhat heated debates. Right. But at the end of it, we both had very different perspectives. I think generally I was more like, I think a test would be good, and you were at the other extreme.
See, again, being characterized wrongly. You like to use the word.
The other side of the fence.
Other extreme.
The other side of the fence.
You could just say that I have a different opinion, but you had to characterize it as I was at an extreme, Okay. And you are the moderate, you're the moderate in the middle, you see. I think the theme from that last episode is still here, where a lot of my views are constantly being mischaracterized.
I said the other extreme, meaning that I'm already at one extreme.
Yeah, but you didn't say that at the start. You just started, this is my view, and here's the other extreme, which is Terence's view,
Yeah, that hints that if I say, that's the other Indian over there, logically you would assume that I'm also Indian.
So you see, you're applying like this logical test to it, right? But there's we don't know, we haven't done a test about people's logic yet. So what makes you so certain that people will understand? Right. Must do test first, then you understand, right? You never do test, then you just assume people like that. Correct. That's exactly what we're talking about. Do we need this test? Do you need to test everything? Yeah.
That was a pre-planned debate between Terence and I to show how it is always important to be open-minded.
Yes.
Correct,
yes.
Terence. That was a negative display, which was purely planned.
Correct. Yeah.
Purely planned. But yes, the news that just popped over the weekend was that there was a follow-up survey it was commissioned by CNA actually, and conducted by MediaCorp-owned market research agency MRC. And it was a survey done over a week from March 8th to 15th that polled Singapore-born citizens aged between 18 and 69 about what their thoughts are on an English test being part of the Singapore citizenship application process. Yeah. And I mean, overall, let's see, some higher level stats is that 80% of the 500 Singapore-born citizens were in favor of an English test. 52% said new citizens should be at least able to converse in English. 41% said they should be able to speak, read, or write in English. And then there were some other numbers about the most important criteria to assess new Singapore citizenship applications.
Yeah.
So, Terence, why did you want to talk about this? Because you were the one who suggested this.
Firstly, I think it's very interesting that this survey has been done. Because remember, it's off a suggestion from the opposition leader, Pritam Singh. So it's not even like this is a government thing that was announced and then now they're putting out test balloons. They're literally doing a survey about something, an opposition leader's suggestion, which was quite hotly debated, both in Parliament and online. So you could see this. Maybe this is a test balloon somewhat that the government is putting out there to see, hey, what are people thinking about this issue, right? Because it's not just a survey. I think granted that CNA is a MediaCorp company, right? It's part of MediaCorp, and this is a MediaCorp survey. Maybe they want to drum up interest in the survey, but at the same time, they also did speak to, whether it's sociologists or professors or academics about this issue, and so it's quite comprehensive. It's not like they just came out with a dipstick survey and then they reported on it the next day or anything like that, So tells you that maybe there is some of these rumblings in the works, something related to this proficiency test.
Yeah. And I mean, for likewise for me also, the thing that stood out first was like, this is actually a survey that shows results that point towards against the direction that was taken by the PAP MPs that did rebut Pritam's suggestion.
Yep.
Right. Because normally I think the stereotypical way it pans out is that there's a motion put forward or debated in Parliament. that is the PAP against opposition. A survey runs to almost reinforce the sentiment of the PAP. And I mean, I know that's a blanket statement. So the one example that came to mind was the timing of the survey that looked at how Singapore did during COVID. It was like the weekend before the white paper was to be debated in Parliament. So it just felt like, that's interesting timing. But this one, when it came out, I was like, oh shit, that's interesting. And specifically the MP that was surprised in response to Pritam's suggestion was the second Minister for Home Affairs, Josephine Teo.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like when you look at the results, was there anything that surprised you, Terence?
Actually, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised most people think this way. I think the last time we talked about this, and then the subsequent responses that came in, I think a lot of people do feel like there is a one for this test of English proficiency. But for you, like, was it a yes, I won the argument moment that when you saw this headline?
No lah, because also like this was the sentiment. If you ask me to guess what the survey was, I would have guessed this. And I mean, but what I guess was the more how you say eye-opening or almost, I wouldn't say a shock to the system, but something that maybe did think is because they looked at the criteria for assessing new Singapore citizenship applications, right? So it was ability to communicate in English, economic contribution to Singapore, family ties to Singapore, professional skills, qualification, and then it just felt like, wow. As much as I was advocating for a test, seeing like the criteria for new citizens be broken down this quantifiably, right, almost made it feel like we're some fucking school or some job, no? We're like a company putting out a job description saying, if you want to come to Singapore, you need to meet this, which might be a sign of the times, but it just felt like, that's interesting.
So you're saying that it felt like a turn off to you that there's so many it's such a what do you call it,
mechanical,
bureaucratic, sorry,
like a mechanical thing lah.
Yeah, a very mechanical process of assessing whether someone should be a Singaporean. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, to a certain extent. But that being said, it's also like, with every kind of new social practice or technological practice, there's a bit of like, it is not as pure as it once was. But sometimes you kind of need to roll with it. And at this point, I think this is something that I don't know whether it needs to, but I think there is a value for this.
Yeah. I think, there's a lot of interesting points that people have raised about the citizenship test, right? And why it's necessary, I think maybe for me, fundamentally, we don't need to rehash all the arguments, because I will point you out to listen to the excruciating podcast we did.
Yeah, the excruciating. but 371.
Yeah, after all this time and thinking about it and seeing responses about it, I think for me, maybe just fundamentally, it's just the fact that it's a test, a test. And like you at that, when it feels like something much more mechanical in that way, that's a big turn off for me. Where I feel like a test in general is just a very blunt instrument that's used to determine someone's value. Because maybe conditioned our whole lives into thinking that PSLE test, your A-level exam, your O-level exam, all these are the most important markers of your life. And if anything, my life experience has shown that, has shown me, right, that a lot of these tests are just really blunt instruments of determining someone's value, and maybe that's why when the word test is used, I'm just fundamentally not very inclined towards it, because I think the article has some quite interesting suggestions from sociologists, from the professors in our local academic institutions. They're suggesting things like other rules, like ethnic integration policy for private housing estates, for example, or not forcing, but offering opportunities for new citizens or PRs to volunteer in racially diverse settings, and other things like English language course to really introduce Singapore culture and history to them. So I do feel that, yes, a test is a quick and easy way to do it, but it just doesn't leave a very good taste in my mouth. Yeah.
And it's not just like changing the word test with assessment or something like that. It's just the concept of it.
It's just the concept where I think one of the sociologists did bring up that it could it could ultimately boil down to the resources a person has, right? The English proficiency. Yeah. So that's true as well. And that's why for me, it's just having done it my whole life, having gamed exams and gamed tests my whole life. I kind of feel like, is that really the best measure of someone's value? But again, some people say this is all about whether they can do the basic things, right? The basic things in Singapore. But to me, when you put a test out there, it still says something about the value of English versus other languages and stuff in Singapore, which is why I felt very strongly against it. But for you, like now you see these results, you know that you're part of the majority in Singapore and you have the majority vote for this kind of thing already. Are you like even more adamant that it should be implemented?
I wouldn't say even more adamant. I still think it should be there. But I wouldn't say I'm like, wow, yes, I'm going to paint my face with like English test markings and all, and go on a all-out campaign to market it. No. I would say it's just more the dawning of reality of the fact that it is. I can imagine even more countries doing this because some of the suggestions they did, while noble, right, it feels like it's too.
Sorry, what suggestions they did? As in that they came up with in this article?
The sociologists from NTU said, who did disapprove of the English test. Certain suggestions that he had was to, like what you said, create environments where immigrants see the need and value in learning English. Private estates, offering opportunities for new citizens or PRs to volunteer in racially diverse settings. I think when I hear that sort of suggestion, right, I'm like, walao, that's... I would consider myself a relatively idealistic person, but I read that also, I'm like, how is that ever gonna kick off? You're expecting people to... Already getting people to volunteer for things is hard. Then you're expecting people like to just volunteer if there's no score or something that they can do that counts towards it, right? Then I don't think they will.
But you mean like having, say, CMIO
in private estates,
quotas in private estates? I mean, it's already done for HDB, right? Like in public estates. So is it really that out of left field to think that way?
I mean, I think that would be damn hard to pass, because I can imagine like when you get a HDB, you buy it in the notion that there are these frameworks in place. Maybe it's because we grew up with it already. And you can disagree, you can agree, but right now it's there. Whereas private imposing that, right? And I can imagine a lot of pushback from people who I would imagine they would say we're already paying a premium.
Yeah.
And yet with these rules we can't know why is it called private? Why is the government getting involved in my business?
But I mean, but couldn't you just say that's the price of living in Singapore? To be part of the to be even to own property in Singapore and everything. It's just part of it, and yes, it's probably difficult, and but that's why I was thinking, if we're talking about English test versus something that really makes a bigger difference on the ground. You and I, we also know of certain parts of Singapore that do feel more like ethnic enclaves, in a way. Where especially in the private housing estates, where you see it's a majority of certain race or certain mixture of races, right? And it's just one of those things that people joke about, but they don't. There's nothing. But we don't even talk about why it might be good or bad for the system, right? So maybe if we're going to tackle it, maybe now's the time to tackle it altogether.
So you're saying English test and CMIO and private CMIO?
if we're doing English tests, let's go all the way, man. Like CMIO, everything.
CMIO, then English test also lah. Like, you know, how long do you need to take to order these 3 local dishes lah? Or like local kopi, like the assessment is, right, you literally have 3 people at your table, all assessors, and you have 1 minute and they tell you to order, they're not going to repeat it. And you go to the coffee auntie and then you order that.
Actually, that sounds like awesome. Then
that
that's
would
like,
be
to me,
awesome.
That's like a practical Singlish or like living in Singapore test rather than like a test of language, right?
Yeah,
it's really
about
right. Practically how to live practically in Singapore. You know, then there's like a fake supermarket counter with someone from NTUC and everything, and then you have to talk to them.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's a fishmonger with a fish store, and then you got to be able to like point and say what you want, and they tell you how much, and you got to take out the coins and pay properly and everything. Yeah, that to me sounds like that's a test that I think would be useful.
And then like they serve you half-boiled eggs with the shell, and you have to crack it yourself without throwing it back in their face. You could turn that into a whole TV show, no? Like you just have a live stream. I would totally watch it.
Like physical 100, but this one is Singlish 100. Singlish 100.
No, and then also certain cultural things like, one test could be like, okay, I want you to get me a kopi that has 5 grams of sugar per cup. But there's a mama stall, there's a teh tarik stall, and there's a Chinese coffee stall. How do you order across the different things? Because I can tell you, every mama stall I've ordered teh tarik from, right, you ask for less sugar, it's still damn sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, you have to tell them almost no sugar, then you put the sugar yourself. But you ask for kurang manis and all that, siew-dai, it still comes back sweet. So that's the like level 5 Singapore cultural nuance.
Yeah. Or maybe you can even level up and make them do physical challenges like the physical 100 like that, where they have to, like I think
Singaporean challenges.
Yeah, they have to push like a real boat, right, from one end of the room to the other. Yeah. And maybe in Singapore is you gotta do something very physical. So I can't think of anything right now, but maybe it's like to haul like 100 kg of durian from one end of the room to the other, that kind of thing, and not like get spiked in the process, yeah.
Actually, yeah, man. Like that would be a total, like a fucking great show.
Yeah.
Singlish
like 100.
Singlish 100. And I mean, ultimately, you only feature people who, with their consent and all that, of course. So maybe live stream not the best idea, but you just turn it into a show.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I would totally watch that, man.
Yeah, the winner walks with citizenship. Wow.
No, but doesn't that...
Really awesome.
Okay, so how does that make you feel as a citizen of Singapore? As a citizen of a country? Okay, not the physical 100, but having these sort of criteria for assessment, right? Which probably is present in a lot of like countries where there is a supply of people who want to get citizenship there. Does it make you feel anything?
Does it make me feel anything? I think, like you say, it's the dawning of a reality, right? The reality is, we are just we're a very small country, and it's quite a miracle that everything came together and we are where we are now, right? But at the same time, it can be very precarious as well, right? I think there's a feeling that Singapore, because of the rising prices and everything recently, is actually less and less of an attractive destination for a lot of global talent, so to speak. And and a lot of these things might be out of our control, right? Like global inflation, inflationary pressures and things like that, and the fact that we import most of our goods as well, right?
Yeah.
So to me, the reality also is like, are we too comfortable with where things are at now that we want to think of ways that we can and will say no to people applying for citizenship? We're trying to come up with more ways to say no to people applying for citizenship, as opposed to thinking about ways of better integrating them once they're here.
Oh,
that's what I feel about it. Yeah.
So we're almost like, it's like we are a startup about to list on the IPO, and we're like, you know what? I think we need to have more stringent requirements for potential applicants. Then fucking economy crash. and then you can't you need people to join lah.
Yeah, you can't reverse the policies that easily lah. I don't know. It's just something that's been on my mind recently because I have personal anecdotes of like people from around the world who are starting to say that Singapore in the last 2-3 years has just become outrageously expensive for them to live here, and so they are looking to move to other places and all already lah. So it's a kind of a catch-22 situation we're in lah, right?
But I mean, then that's the scary part lah, because whoever wants to leave, they can leave. But then ultimately, if someone leaves and the person coming in is like can speak damn good English, very high earning, high income, very skilled, then you just will go towards that extreme lah,
Yeah.
And that's what scares me about Singapore to a certain extent lah. Like I think there was another NUS study that came out today or over the past week, was that the income gap between graduates and non-graduates is only going to get bigger.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because all the things we are hearing over the past few years is like, more equality, this accessibility and everyone and inclusive societies and all that. But reality, I don't know, man. It feels like it's not really in line with what's happening in reality.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, are we? Singapore right now is we're kind of in a place where we're still really trying to figure ourselves out quite a bit, right? Whether it's our sense of national cultural identity, as well as like how to transition the Singapore story, so to speak, to the next phase.
Yeah.
I think the last maybe 50, 60 years, it was really about Singapore, the economic, the little country the little country that could, right? And Lee Kuan Yew brought us to this place where we're now a developed country and everything. But now that we're playing in those leagues, right? We really need to think about like how then at this point, how do we compete with other countries? Because if you're talking about like spending money on infrastructure, buying, getting direct foreign investment and everything. I mean, just look to the Middle East, like how fast they're doing all that, right? Whether it's building skyscrapers, investing in sports and entertainment companies, and bringing a World Cup to their country and things like that. And that's all based on the money they have from natural resources, right? Which we don't have any of at all, right? So what is it that really makes Singapore an attractive place for people to live, That's what I think like the new generation of leadership has to tackle. And it's not an easy question,
Yeah, man, it is not an easy question. Yeah, it's just I think that all ties in with everything that we have read and heard about. The younger generation, the stresses they feel, the fact that every generation prior would have gone through some sort of challenges, and they might look at the current generation thinking, wake the fuck up, like y'all, don't be so soft. But I don't know, man. It's a challenging future ahead.
It is
challenging future ahead.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Yeah. So, but I did ask, how do you feel about all this? The fact that we are starting to look at more ways to, put these safeguards or guardrails, so to speak, around Singapore to make sure that we get the right people in. How do you feel about all this recent debates?
So I mean, on one hand, I can understand and I agree with certain things that are being put in place, like say the English test and all. But if I look at the more qualitative side, almost feels like there's already inequality in Singapore, right? Like every country. But then it almost feels like Singapore is becoming an elite country as a whole.
Elitist, are you saying?
Yeah, elitist country as a whole. Okay. Yeah. Which I mean, like I know elitist has a lot of negative connotations, but even in the past, when you get countries like that, very high income GDP per capita, very high standards of living, citizens are taken care of, you could see them as being elitist, But in this case, it feels like feels like a elitist country, but do I feel elitist or part of that elite? Like it just feels like I'm on this ship that's going one way, but I'm like yeah, it feels feels like I'm on a different journey almost. Yeah, that's when I'm at my more introspective times, like when the skies are grays, and maybe the day didn't go so well, and I'm thinking, what am I doing with my life? That's when I feel like, oh, feels like, yeah, we're on the same. There's a very good saying that explains this, but I cannot remember. But it's something like, we are. Oh, it was during COVID. I think it came out. We are all in the same ocean, but on different boats, or some shit like that. Same storm, but on different boats.
Yeah. I think what you're saying that, basically you're essentially also saying that it feels like there's two versions of Singapore.
Yeah.
That are out there now, lah. One for those people who can make it, and one for those people who are struggling to stay afloat, lah.
Right? Yeah. Exactly that.
And then that is, you feel, is like the bigger problem, and that's why some people seem to be wanting to, guard what is Singapore right now more tightly, whereas the other side is they want Singapore to be more open, lah.
Yeah. But I like also then you want it to be more open, but
to who, lah, right?
Yeah, and maybe you're in one Singapore, you want to jump to the other Singapore.
Yeah.
So that's what's keeping you going. And of course, even for me, like I think for most people, right, you want to move up on your social or socio-economic mobility and stuff like that. But if that doesn't happen, will you still be okay with it? Or is everything you're hoping for predicated on that happening? Because that is dangerous, man.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
So the two Singapore thing, like, which we have seen in other countries also. I think it almost feels like it's a natural life cycle for any developed country.
But we do you think Singapore, we seem to be accelerating towards that, right? Like very, very fast.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, interesting, especially Q1 2023 just ended. People would have finished their financial year. Yeah,
whole bunch of layoffs in tech and globally, right? So a lot of people, it's like what you say, like elite talent losing their jobs around the world as well. And Singapore's not excluded. And where will all these people end up going, right? Where would they want to go and sink their roots?
Yeah, man.
But yes, interesting questions also, because we're also talking about our experience, sort of our experience watching the corporate world around us do their thing, right? And we ended up getting shafted in the process. And what are we actually talking about now?
It is almost like an after action review of something that we had been thinking about for a while and finally did last week, which is to go public with the story of our TV series, She's a Terrorist and I Love Her, with a few articles written by some very capable journalists, as well as the posting of all 8 episodes of She's a Terrorist on our YouTube channel. I.e., it's public, lah.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, like, just for context, if you weren't aware, there were 2 articles that were written last week, one by Tech in Asia, one by Rice Media, that covered different angles of the story of our TV show She's a Terrorist and I Love Her, which we made in 2020 for a then network called HOOQ, HOOQ. We spent 2019 making it. We were super proud of it. It came out early 2020 in January. By March 2020, HOOQ liquidated, and they owed us quite a big amount of money, and they took the show off air. So since then, the liquidation process has been delayed multiple times, and last November, which was the last deadline we were aware of, we couldn't get through to the lawyers. We tried to buy back the IP, and that's when Terence and I were like, oh, okay, so what do we do here? And then last week, 27th March, was the 3-year anniversary of the day that HOOQ liquidated, which was 27 March 2020.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
yeah, so those articles came out. We posted on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we have a few questions on our Yalabat Reddit AMA thread, and also just maybe any thoughts that we may have about the whole process.
Yeah. Maybe best we just jump in and start answering the questions.
Yes, I think so too.
I think that way we just keep it flowing in terms of question after question rather than because if you ask me to talk about this, I can talk about this for like 2 days straight So I do need the questions in front of me to kind of anchor me to reality.
Sure thing, man. So you can start.
Yeah, I will start with I think we just start from the more the oldest questions and then to the newest. So from FurbyBot, FurbyBot asked like 4 questions. First one: did the people who worked on the show get paid?
Yes, a most definite yes. Every single person, outside of I guess you and I, got paid the full amount lah.
Yeah. I think we made it a point that we will do our best to honor whatever payment terms that we were that we agreed with those people as well, right? Of course, as things happened, we did talk to people and ask them, hey, could you give us an extension? But it was never anything more than like I don't know what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something like that, right? So I think within almost at least like 2 or 3 months max after the show finished, everyone was already paid off already.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
The next question is, did you guys have thoughts of quitting the media industry and moving on to something else? Since Terrence has a family to support, I'm sure it's hard for you. So yes, maybe I'll just take this one first.
Yeah.
I think definitely when something so such a big blow happens to you, and especially because in the media industry you only you're sort of even with a company and all, you're kind of still like a freelancer in a way, right? You have to pitch an idea to a network, and then network buys into it, and then you work on it, right? So at every step of the way, there's always like you're always feeling on the edge. You're always feeling like, oh, if I don't get this pitch, will the companies be able to exist past tomorrow, right? So I think definitely, especially during the time when COVID was hitting and everything came to a standstill, definitely there were these thoughts going through our minds, and I think we talked about us having very difficult conversations about this before as well, right?
Yeah, because I mean, literally, Terrence and I got on quite a few calls talking about, okay, what do we do now? Because we did have that huge amount of debt which the liquidation put our company in. I actually did venture out into like a tech incubator of some sort for a couple of months.
Tech
and I remember
bro.
even
you were trying to be a tech bro, right?
Tech bro, man, tech bro.
Then you were like, at one point you were like crypto evangelist, AI consultant. Everything was on your LinkedIn, right?
No, I didn't go down that line. No. But yeah, the tech, the startup scene, and all that. Because I mean, it was an incubator. They offered a stipend, and you could still work on some sort of idea. And I went in as the media guy, so it was an interesting experience. But I remember the call also that I got on with Terrence to say, "Hey, Terrence, I'm going to be applying for this," and it was a tough call, but and it sucked having to even have that call. But yeah, it was a reality because at that point we couldn't, not only like we had that payment to be made, we couldn't even film TV shows or videos, which was our business. So yeah, it was just, and you were stuck at home, and we took personal loans. So in like just being in the vicinity of people, like people who gave us those loans also, it was not a fun time lah. And we couldn't go out, and just talking about it is like, okay, that was rough. But yeah, so I left the industry for a while, and then I came back lah. For all we know, Yalabat may not even have lived on past like the first few episodes.
Yeah, especially after during the pandemic, right? Especially. So those episodes, if you go back and listen to them, just remember that we were recording those under very extreme, stressful circumstances as well.
Yeah, correct. So the time from March 2020 to about December 2020. Then we had a show in December 2020. Then slowly we scrambled back lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
cool.
for WeBot's next question is, for future projects, will you guys draft a contract in case this sort of thing happens again?
So, I mean, So you go.
I mean, that's the thing, right? You even with the contract, right? Like in this case with the HOOQ liquidation, even with the contract, if the company just decides to liquidate and all that, right? Unfortunately, the infrastructure in Singapore and all, there's very little that can be done to hold someone accountable for that action, lah. And like I think the Rice Media article they did, I can't remember if it was Rice or Tech in Asia. They did ask us that question, like, do we regret not hiring a lawyer and all that, right? And a lot of times is, of course, if you could get a lawyer, you could pay a lawyer to help you do all these things and look through all these things. That's great, lah, right? But you kind of need to balance that with what you want to get out of the project, whether the people that you're working with can be trusted, and what kind of it's all a little bit of a gamble, right? There is a bit of a gamble to it. Like even if let's say our contract did somehow state that we would get back our IP in the event of a liquidation, for example, right? In that case, we would get back our IP, but we would still been left with that $200,000 that they never paid us, lah. And of course, having the IP would have been probably made for a better situation, but it still would have been fucking terrible, lah. Still would have sucked regardless, lah, right? I think the IP was just like made it a lot worse. But what I'm saying is that you can't fully insulate yourself just from having getting a lawyer to look through a contract and things like. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because I mean, the contract we had in place was quite sizable and detailed, but I think the biggest thing is going for any business or anyone out there, you can have a contract, but the contract is not 100% foolproof, lah. I think there are very few contracts that are 100% foolproof. There'll probably be some combination of shit that can happen that would render it void, lah. What we took away from it is that, okay, any part of our business going forward, we cannot put all our eggs in one basket, lah. Because when we were making the TV show, we kind of stopped making YouTube videos because we were like, this is going to be our big break, which on hindsight, not the best idea, which is why now we still do TV shows. We have this podcast, we have Folklory, and making sure that, okay, like, we are a bit more diverse, lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the fourth question, by talking about this, what will happen in terms of legal reason? Like I guess he's asking any legal repercussions. Like what someone asked, why talk about it now instead of earlier?
Why not earlier, Terence?
I think we wanted to give it give time for the liquidation to play out, for us to see what would actually come out of the liquidation, and then we would comment about it. So it dragged on a year, it dragged on 2 years, and as even our own determination to really get answers from the liquidators and all also was tested over time when they're really just not responding to us at all. Then I think that's where we're like, okay, you know what? They're basically just shutting the door on us, right? Essentially just ignoring our emails, ignoring our texts or our emails, and it didn't seem to be getting anywhere. That's why we decided, okay, you know what? It's more important for us to have closure, to just talk about this, to just put this on public record that this happened to us, If not, I don't think I don't want to drag it any further beyond 3 years already, That'll just be way too long in the past already. How about you?
Yeah, I think it was more exactly that, like we made sure to not monetize it. We didn't say, you pay to watch it and you put it behind a paywall. We didn't want to do an event like, a live event, come and buy tickets to watch this or crowd fund stuff, because then you open up yourself for more legal issues. Like for us, it's really just we want the story to be heard because it's a window into corporate bullshit that can happen, and also for the show to be on YouTube publicly. So yeah, I mean, who knows what can happen, but at this point, it's just closure and I think we got that
Yeah. So yes, those were the 4 questions from FurbyBot.
Yeah.
I will then move on to original poster 2020.
Yes.
Noob question: why the silence for all these years? NDA gag order. I think it's quite similar to what we just answered, right?
Yeah, I think just to clarify that it was there was no real NDA per se, right? It was more our own decision. Okay, let's respect the liquidation process, even though we really thought about going public at some point. But when it yielded nothing, right? Then we're like, you know what? This can't die a slow death. This can't die an anonymous death in the background. So we just do what we can.
Yeah, we respected the process for as long as we thought the process would respect us.
Yeah, exactly.
I think after a while it came to us that we were not even being considered in the whole process at all.
Yeah, it was like a bad relationship that we stayed in the hopes that things will change.
Yeah,
and then last week we went clubbing.
Yeah,
I
thought you were going to say we went on social media. We went on TikTok and put up some thirst trap videos.
No,
that's the young equivalent. The old equivalent is go clubbing and grinding.
We put in LinkedIn thirst traps, LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram thirst traps. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for that question. Original poster 2020. Man Official, long time listener also, has heard anything from stakeholders since news broke? Any negative comments you've received from going public? Harish.
So stakeholders, not really. We've heard from ex-employees or people who were on the fringe of HOOQ, either being part of employed there or being associated with some companies in the industry. Yeah, so I mean a lot of heartening messages. A lot of people who were supportive, a lot of people who I think still think that maybe it happened 2 weeks ago. So they've been extremely supportive. But I haven't received any negative comments. What about you?
Yeah, nothing from stakeholders. If stakeholders, you mean whether it's ex-HOOQ senior management or from Singtel or other shareholders like Warner Brothers or Sony or anything. Nothing there. Any negative comments you received? Maybe some people who, I think there were a couple of comments I saw on LinkedIn when people read the article saying that kind of saying that we're naive to think that someone would step in to pay us as vendors of a liquidated company, right? But I think that shows that they probably didn't read the article, right? I think we were quite clear that we were already kind of certain that nothing would come out of the process already, right? And if anything, we just wanted to talk about it and also for people to see what we had done. Which is great because all the actors and all the even not the lead actors but people who had smaller roles in the show, they're also proud of it. They're posting clips of the show online and telling people to watch it. And these are people that we didn't even contact prior to the news of this going public, right? They just we just hey, they just reached out and they're like, hey, it's fantastic you're doing this. Can I share some of the clips as well, right? So we're just very heartened by the positivity around the show and as a work of as a labor of love for everyone involved.
True that, man.
Cool. So the next question by Ben the Man. That's a man with double N MAN. Hey guys, bet it must have felt good to finally let off some steam. 3 questions. 1, how did you all manage to land the talents for the show? Any funny or memorable incidents that happened during the shoot? Great choices. I think he's referencing the casting of the show. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, for the lead, of course it'll be me, right? There was no other choice for the lead. It's a show we created, so I want to fucking be the lead. No, I did really enjoy the role. And I think what I enjoyed more was the cast that we found. So certain the main cast, we kind of had ideas of who we wanted and who we knew would do a great job. And it was just a joy working with people like Noah, Muna, Kate, the Jeremiah and Aiden and Jackie and Elliot and Rishi and Ben King. Yeah, it was just it was great like, and I mean there were specific reasons why we got them also. One thing was like they all can kind of do a lot of ad lib. Which is improvising on the spot. Like, you give them a line, they know the setting, they know the character, and they just come up with some funny ass shit.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. But I mean, for you as director, what was it like directing us?
I think, I think to answer that question as well, were there any funny or memorable incidents, right?
Yeah.
I think it was very, the mantra of like just hiring great people and then getting out of their way, right? I think I really embraced that approach to doing this, because for me also it was a new experience, right? Directing such so many episodes of a long form thing, and to really just keep up the energy and all, you really needed to work with people who were excited about the idea, who were excited about their roles, and were willing to put in the work and effort to come up with new lines or new ways to deliver lines. So yeah, there's so many funny or memorable parts that were in the show, but also were not in the show that we were doing on the spot, on the fly, right? So maybe it might be fun to show some of the bloopers and all at some point, right? Because there were really a lot of funny things that ended up on the cutting floor. And what you see in the show is only a sliver of the really funny parts that we did experience while filming.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing we are super happy with is the locations that we filmed in, because the good thing about HOOQ when it existed was that it was filling the gap of a network who wanted to create very Singaporean shows that have the ability to go outside of Singapore. So we were given quite a lot of creative freedom. So if you watch the show, we film in a sex shop quite often. One character's workplace was a sex shop, and our locations guy went to every sex shop in Singapore to ask whether we can film, and there was only one who said yes. We filmed in a hotel on Geylang, which has all the vibes that you would expect. We filmed at a KTV. We filmed at a huge ass car park in Tuas. So the locations all were great lah. And I know when we were filming at the HDB once, there was a potential tenant coming to rent the place, and because there were dildos and sex dolls all over, I remember we just stuffed everything into a cupboard, into the storeroom, and they came in, saw the house, and then they left, and then we took out all the dildos.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of these things happen on the shoot that then, I mean, they're not obviously part of the show, but yeah, they were very funny lah. Okay, then the next question from Ben the Man. Having gone through this ugly process, what would be some steps that you guys can do to ensure this won't happen again, or at least to minimize the impact? Anything specific that we haven't talked about?
I think not being afraid to really push hard when it comes to timelines, or even walk away from a project if you can foresee cash flow on whatever payment schedule is being proposed being challenging.
Yeah.
Because if you take on a project and you have cash flows from like a gazillion different sources, where this project pays you like a year later, you can still kind of fund it with your other cash. Right? But if it's the only project you're working on, might not be the best idea.
Yeah. I think, to me, that's the biggest thing. Like, I think, a lot of bigger players or big people, big customers and all that will always try to work out some kind of arrangement that's best for themselves. Whether it's, I'll pay you after your project's delivered, I'll pay you only after the project is done and all that, right? And maybe really, really insisting that, as the project begins, then it needs to be what you're trying to do when you enter a working relationship is it's like entering any kind of relationship, right? Then it needs to be a little bit of give and take. And maybe back then what we prioritized less was the fact that, hey, we also need to make sure that we're sustaining ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about finishing and delivering a final product. It's about how we sustain ourselves through that process as well. And that's maybe something that, in hindsight, probably we should have prioritized more lah, in terms of insisting on certain cash flow milestones and things like that. And yeah, like what you said, like, that you can negotiate, but you do at a certain point need to just say, hey, this is bullshit, and these terms do not work for me, and I need to walk away lah. Which is something I think we take a lot into our discussions with other people a lot more. We talk about these things a lot more lah. Yeah.
Yeah. But of course, also understanding that certain times while walking away is not easy. I think just maybe don't immediately say I will never walk away from something. Just have that as your worst case option lah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then Ben the Man's third and final question for him is, I understand that HOOQ has filed for liquidation and all, but would there be any way for you guys to file for any legal actions? I think it's saying, is there any further legal steps that we could take to potentially get back the money or anything, right?
Yeah. And Terence, well, is there anything?
As to our knowledge, and this is after showing the contract to lawyers and things like that, there's very little, if any, that we can do. And even then, there's no guarantee that we will win whatever legal action that we choose to take as well. So it would be sort of sinking more money into something that we're already losing a lot of money lah.
Yeah.
So that's what at least 2 or 3 lawyers have advised us about already lah, right?
Because the thing is, they like no one did anything illegal per se.
Yeah.
It's just the way as what we've been told. That's the way business works, bro.
Unethical and immoral lah, yes, but not illegal.
Yeah. But even then, unethical, immoral, right? I can totally imagine a lot of people saying what happened was not unethical. It is part of business. Liquidations happen every day.
But it can be unethical without being illegal, right?
True. But then it becomes like this ethics and all is sometimes quite grey also. Right? Like
So that's why I said it's unethical lah, in the sense. Not honoring a contract and all. It's to me that's just unethical.
But so what I'm saying is unethical to you, but I can see someone else saying that, but the contract was that the company liquidated. So it's not unethical. It is a business process that is not illegal. It's not against the law. So it's not unethical, bro. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying there are people who deal with liquidations every day. Different parts of liquidations, and it is just like another business process.
Yeah. So I think it's just where your ethics lie, lor.
Oh my God.
I guess that's where that's the line.
I agree with you.
Draw.
I agree with you. But I'm just saying that at the bottom line, answering this question is there was nothing illegal that was done.
Correct.
So it's going to be hard for us to pursue any legal action.
Yeah. So I think we both agree that it is unethical.
Exactly.
But filing for legal action is hard
Yeah, it's hard.
And actually,
just one more question.
Just one more question to go.
Yeah.
By All Things Quaint, saying, given that this was scripted and produced in 2018 and 2019, would you do it differently, having lived through the past 3 years? COVID-19, racial tensions, the repeal of 377A, geopolitical unrest, war in Ukraine, Lawrence Wong, and mental health fragility. What would you say to that, Harish?
I think there'll be definitely a lot of things I would want to update or change. But at the core of it, I still think that we would, if we needed to do a story involving a terrorist who is planning an attack on a country like Singapore, the nature of their cause would also, like, anti-capitalism sounds about right, maybe now more so than ever. I think it would just be maybe the settings, the jokes, the characters. It might be more relevant, but story-wise, the high-level arc, I don't think I would change much lah.
Yeah, I agree in the sense that extremism hasn't waned in recent times because of what happened in the last 3 years or anything, right? In fact, maybe you could argue this is even more extremist organization, even more sophisticated now than they were before, right?
Yeah.
So it would just offer us more things to work with in terms of comedy and just research as well. I would say that the core of the story would remain the same, but yeah, we would just we would adjust it for the times or update it for the times lah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
man.
like to your point earlier about locations, I'm very glad that we filmed in the locations we filmed because some of them don't even exist anymore, right?
Yeah.
So it's really almost like a time
Like the
capsule.
Thai disco, is it?
The Thai disco, the Toa Payoh playground, even the we filmed in the was it the Tampines, there's a forested area, right? A bike park area.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is
Oh
today.
yeah, we did that. Yeah.
It
Correct.
has been developed into something else already, right? I think it's been
Yeah,
deforested
exactly.
and all. So all these places don't even exist in Singapore anymore. So, yeah, like every show made in Singapore, because Singapore changes so fast, it's almost like a time capsule of what Singapore looked like at a certain point of time as well, right? And yeah, so that's where that's the beauty of it, like it really captured Singapore as it was at a certain point in time, captured us as individuals, how we felt and how we thought and how we looked at a certain point in time as well. Yeah, so everything about it is just a very interesting look back at the life pre-COVID 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And we do also make fun of crypto, right? That has aged well. That has aged well.
Yes, aged well. We also, if it was made today, we would probably make a lot more fun of AI as well, right?
Yeah,
AI would be in the
yeah.
mix and NFTs and all that too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. NFTs. But yeah,
right.
cool.
But yes. Cool.
Yes.
Do we have room for one short comment?
Yeah, we do.
Yes, because it is not all just about the release of TV show. But what is your one short comment?
My one short comment. Wait, there was something by Red Gondola. Just a question, not a comment or any on the podcast, saying that surely you two understand that the Moth and Jom collab is what this island needs. So Moth meaning Ministry of Funny and Jom meaning Sudhir's outfit lah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, so Sudhir is a good friend, and we're always in touch with him. So who knows, man? But I mean, I appreciate like I think one thing that I used to see on YouTube, which I hope maybe can happen more in podcasting, is also just fans and listeners telling us who you would like us to work with, and see like, because sometimes if it's someone we might not be aware of, all the better. So yeah, so I just appreciated that comment lah.
Yeah.
That suggestion.
Yeah.
But what about
you? Yeah, I think just yeah, we do. I think there is room for collaborations like that. But yeah, I think we're also talking about we're operating on slightly different platforms as well, right? So it would need we would need to think through and really discuss how to do it together, lah. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, my one short comment is actually from the YouTube comments about she's a terrorist. I think right as of now, yeah, quite a number of people have managed to catch the show on the channel. But yeah, the most important, the nicest things are some of the comments coming in lah. And I think one of the funny comments that I saw was that from one of the actors in the show, Jeremiah from Tropic Monsters. He said, "I have a crush on the share marriages office girl." And when I first saw this, I didn't realize it was Jeremiah himself, right? That he's literally talking about his real life girlfriend, right? Tiffy, who was acting in our show as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, at first I was like, I was going to screenshot that and then send that to Jeremiah himself, but then I realized from someone else commenting that's your girlfriend, bro.
I see.
So yeah, it stopped me in my tracks from doing one of those boomer things.
Yeah. You ready to spread the goss and spill the tea, is it?
No, I just thought it's a funny thing to say there. Oh, okay, it's a very meta self-referencing joke.
Very sweet, very sweet.
Yeah, very sweet.
Yeah. Cool.
But yes.
Okay, cool. What about your one Shiok thing, man?
My one Shiok thing is a video from the host of the show, Adam, from the host of the show, Everything Sucks.
With Adam
Conover. Yeah. Everything Sucks by Adam Conover, right? So Adam Conover now has his own no, it's called Adam Ruins Everything. Right? Adam Ruins Everything.
Oh, okay,
yeah. But and the host is Adam Conover. He's a very he's a comedian who used to host a show that was meant to debunk a lot of stereotypes or traditional ways of thinking that people had about a lot of things, right? Using science or using research. So he's now got a YouTube channel that he's quite active on. He posts quite a bit on the YouTube channel, and I think he also is on Patreon and everything. So now he's away from the network, and people can support him as an individual. He just released a video 2 days ago called "AI is BS." So talking about how artificial intelligence is all bullshit, right? So I know the world has been getting a hard on about AI, and everyone's just raving about AI and debating about it all the time. So it was quite funny and interesting to hear his perspective about AI being bullshit, and he does go into a lot of detail and research about it. So it's a interesting perspective to hear about why all this talk about AI and all is just something to get the tech companies are using to distract us from real issues, lah. Yeah. So if you've been getting a hard on about AI, I think it's something worth watching and listening to.
I see. Oh, and how long is it?
A 25-minute video, so it's quite extensive. Yeah.
I see. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll enjoy it.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it.
Because I think you've been reading a lot about AI, right?
Yes, I have.
You're one of those people that reference about getting hard on about AI.
Yes, I do. But it's a very confusing hard on. It's a very confusing hard on.
Yeah. But I can get why a lot of people are very into it now. Yeah. So it's it's interesting to get the other side of hear a perspective from the other side of the fence once in a while, right?
True. Okay, cool. So my one Shiok Thing is also a YouTube channel. It's called Philosophy Overdose. It's actually the second iteration of the channel because the first one was shut down. And while it sounds like it's a horrible thing, what this channel does is that it re-uploads clips of intellectuals or academics having debates about different things, lah. So I think the first channel was shut down because of a copyright claim. But they have this new channel up. I don't know. I think this channel can exist because the stuff he's using doesn't fall under copyright because it's maybe publicly available and he's just kind of re-uploading and not monetizing. But either way, like the one thing that I saw was a debate from 1971 between Noam Chomsky and Michael Foucault, both of whom are famous like authors, famous thought leaders, debating power versus justice. And it's just the whole channel is like that. It's like 12, 15-minute clips of like these things that, when you like cutting vegetables or something, you just want to listen to some people talk about the higher level, not like why the stock market is crashing and shit like that. These kind of things are like, like society, what is the innate nature of humans and shit like that. So I just thought, hey, shit, this is cool. And all the clips are like very old. And you see people with funky haircuts and all that just sitting on couches and talking, and it's damn interesting, man. Very interesting.
Did they talk about AI?
No lah, dude. It's fucking 1971 lah, dude. Yeah, I think the most recent clip. I don't know. I think you look at the clip, they all are like either black and white or like artificially colored. So I think, or like just based on the hairstyles, you can tell what time period they're in.
I see.
Yeah, it's old clips. Yeah, but it's cool. Cool, man. Awesome. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right. See you.